Okay, so when a natural disaster is bearing down on you, a warning can literally be the difference between life and death. But what happens when that warning just never shows up, or it shows up in a language you can't understand? Today, we are digging into a really powerful investigation that looks at how language bias during a cyclone in Sri Lanka had absolutely devastating consequences.
And this right here is the stark accusation from the Tamil Guardian, made right after Cyclone Didwa hit. I mean, it's a huge claim that the government essentially left an entire community in the dark without the information they needed to survive.
So that's a massive allegation, right? But is it actually true? Is there data to back it up? Well, that's exactly what we're here to find out. We're going to dive in and look at the evidence from the official sources themselves. All right, first up in our case file, the Disaster Management Center, or DMC. This is the country's main disaster response agency. We're going to comb through what they were posting and who they were posting it for during those absolutely critical days of the storm. So let's start with their main social media channel, Facebook. And wow, just look at the numbers here. We've got 56 posts in Sinhala or English, but only 12 posts with any information in Tamil. That is a massive gap. But, what does a gap like that actually mean for people on the ground?
It meant everything. Seriously, this wasn't just missing some minor updates. We're talking about life and death information. While Sinhala speakers were getting specific evacuation orders for landslide-prone areas, Tamil speakers in those exact same areas got radio silence. They weren't told about major roads being washed out. They weren't even told that major national exams were being postponed. Specific warnings about rivers flooding, detailed warnings for fishermen about wind speeds, all of it was missing in Tamil.
And this wasn't just a social media screw-up, not by a long shot. This table shows the official, detailed situation reports from the DMC's own website. During the 3 most critical days of the cyclone, they published 6 of these reports. The number of reports that had a Tamil translation, a grand total of 0. Not a single one.
So that was the DMC. Now, let's open our second case file on the Meteorology Department. These are the folks responsible for the weather warnings in the first place. And this is where the evidence points to something even more alarming: a total information blackout at the worst possible time.
Just look at this timeline. It tells the whole story. The last Tamil update goes out just before 6 p.m. Then, as the storm intensifies overnight into a full-blown cyclone, the Met Department keeps pushing out updates in Sinhala. New coordinates, storm movements, everything. But for Tamil speakers, nothing. For 12 straight hours, during the most dangerous part of the storm, they were left completely blind, an absolute information vacuum.
And even when they did get information out in Tamil, the delays themselves were incredibly dangerous. Take this heavy rain warning. It goes out to Sinhala speakers at 3:51 p.m. Tamil speakers don't get that same exact warning for nearly 3 hours. When you're talking about flash floods, a 3-hour delay isn't just an inconvenience, it's an eternity. It's the difference between getting out and getting trapped.
And the pattern just kept going. The storm gets worse, it's upgraded to a deep depression. That warning, it never makes it into Tamil. On one of the key days, the entire morning weather and sea forecast was just skipped in Tamil. Even the routine, everyday forecasts were consistently late by more than an hour and a half. So you see, this wasn't just a one-off mistake. This was a consistent, systematic pattern of neglect. Okay, so the data is just overwhelming. The what happened is pretty clear. But the really big question is why? Why did this happen? Well, the investigation suggests this isn't just about a bad social media manager. It points to something much, much deeper, what the source calls the architecture of exclusion.
The core idea here is this concept of digitizing discrimination. It's a really important idea. Think of it like this. If your real-world systems are already biased or discriminatory, building a shiny new digital platform on top of them doesn't magically fix the problem. In fact, it often just makes that discrimination more efficient. And this quote from the source material just hits the nail on the head. If you don't fix the underlying problems first, like staffing or official language policies, then all that fancy technology is just going to create a faster, more effective way to exclude people. It basically automates the discrimination that was already there.
So, where does all this evidence lead us? What's the final verdict from this whole investigation? Well, frankly, it's a deeply sobering one, because the failures we saw weren't just a glitch in the system.
The shocking conclusion is that these digital platforms, the websites, the Facebook pages, they weren't broken. They actually worked exactly as they were designed to work, inside a system that already marginalized Tamil speakers. They didn't fail, they succeeded in amplifying an existing institutional bias, even when people's lives were on the line.
And we can't ever forget the human cost of all this. This isn't just about data points or late posts. More than 80 people lost their lives during Cyclone Ditwa. And while you can't draw a direct line from a single missed post to every death, we know for sure that leaving entire communities without life-saving information creates an absolutely unthinkable risk.
So this leaves us with this huge, really unsettling question that goes way beyond this one cyclone. You know, we love to think of technology as this great equalizer. But this whole investigation forces us to stop and ask, if we're not careful, if we don't fix the underlying injustices first, does technology just give us more efficient tools to do the same old damage? Does it risk making discrimination not just faster, but a whole lot deadlier?